Hey, insight number 3. Alright, so in the last one we discussed the beginning of the downfall of Saul, and it just kind of got worse and worse and worse. And so the Lord says to Samuel, who's still the prophet at this point, he's no longer going to be king. We're going to get another king. You're going to anoint another king, someone who has got a good relationship with me already. And I'm going to send you out to find him. So he goes looking, goes to a guy called Jesse, who's Ruth's grandson. Yeah, cool though. You remember from last week? So Ruth had Obed, gave Obed to Naomi. He had a son called Jesse, and Jesse has these sons. So that's where the timeline sort of fits. So Jesse has a bunch of sons. He pulls them all through, and they're all good-looking, tall, strapping men. And the Lord says no to all of them. Through Samuel says no, and yet still says to Samuel, it's one of Jesse's sons. I know it is. So, which one is it? So Samuel says, is there another son? And he's like, well, I've got one other, but he's out tending the sheep. He's too young. He's a runt, He's a good kid, but, yeah, kind of annoying. His brothers don't like him. He's young and annoying, wants to be with them, and they're all grown up, or something like that. So anyway, but in verse 7 is what's really cool. Well, 6 and 7. So, there's 3 in it. It says, it came to pass when they were done that he looked on Eliab and said, surely the Lord's anointed is before him. But the Lord said unto Samuel, look not on his countenance, or on the height of his stature, because I have refused him. For the Lord seeth not as man seeth, for man looketh on the outward appearance, but the Lord looketh on the heart. So this is finding David. David was the little shepherd boy out there, a runt, a little scrawny whatever, who grew into a king. But that's part of how the Lord sees us. He doesn't see us as we are now. He sees us as we can become. And it's kind of special that he does that. So, how can we do that better? So what does it mean to you to look on the heart of someone like Christ does here instead of the outward appearance? Interesting one, isn't it? He then goes on to anoint David as the king, even though he's a kid, and won't be king for a while, but he is now the anointed, called king, because Saul's basically got released, although it's a bit weird in that king, because he's still the king and the people believe him to be a king, he's no longer a good king. He's lost the Spirit of the Lord's not with him anymore. So David is now the king, but he will be the successor, because even Saul's sons, one of them's good and becomes David's really good friend, and we're going to talk about him in a minute. But the other, it's not good. So anyway, so what does it mean to you to look on the heart of someone? So a young shepherd boy hardly looked like a king, like what you were thinking a king would be like. Because you remember Saul, the previous king, tall, gorgeous, has all the facial features, stature. Apparently he stood head and shoulders above everyone else. So he looked like a king. He looked like a leader. This young shepherd boy, who was probably a bit grubby and whatever, did not look like a king. Yet, as with all of us, the Lord sees what we can become, as I said, not what we are looking at physically right now. So don't make assumptions based on physical appearance. Good guys don't always wear white, and bad guys don't always look scary. Right? The Lord looked on David's heart and saw faith and leadership and many other kingly qualities. So, how can we learn to see others as Christ does? To see their heart and countenance, not just their physical appearance. So, one of the ways that I've been able to do that is to really pray to be able to see someone as Christ sees them. To accept them for who they are and love them just as they are, as they were born beautiful and good and awesome. And that really does help. Doesn't mean I always like their actions, but I can still love that person just like Christ does us, because he doesn't love all our actions either, does he? So yeah, that's one way I've been able to do it, but there's other ways we can do it too. We can practice sort of a radical acceptance of other people's choices and know that, they have their agency just like we do. And, actually a lot of times it's none of our business. So that too. But, there's a lot of things that we can do personally to just accept others as they are, but also to see what they can become, to learn to see. That's really through prayer that I've been able to do mine. I'd love to know if you've got any other ideas. For me, it was through prayer and asking specifically to be able to have that gift. And I do, but it was earned. It wasn't just given. It was an earning, and I'm still earning it. But it's and learning it, but it's pretty cool. Anyway, Elder Mark A. Bragg, he said, this is pretty cool. He said, we may see the light of Christ in others constantly. May we see the light of Christ in others constantly, and help them to see it in themselves. And I think that's really key, is that we might be able to see the light of Christ in someone, but they fail to see it for lack of self-confidence, or that they're still young and growing into it, like this David was. So how can we help them get there and see what we see in them and what Christ sees in them? What can we do? And I think that's really cool. So don't just see them, but also go help them be that, because that'll help you be that too. Absolutely. All right. So think about that. It's a really important point, and it does make a difference to just how the kindness and the peace that exists in your life does make a difference to that. It really does. Okay, so that's that. We're going to go and look at David and Goliath, of course. I'll see you there.